All right, welcome. Hello, everyone. My name is Verdeluz, and I am an author of 2 books on astrology and consciousness. I am an astrologer of 12 years, and I'm a digital nomad. I travel around the world. I do my coaching online, and I really wanted to share, I've been wanting to share this talk for quite a while. It's about locational astrology, also called astrolocality. Some people know it as astrocartography. So this has been actually about half of my practice for the last 12 years, since around 2005, 2006. And I'm really excited to share this with you because this tool, it's really edgy, it's new, kind of a new technology to people's awareness, but it's actually been in the world of astrology for about 30 years. And so I'd like to pioneer sharing this with you because I know that it's been very reflective for me in my own journeys. I've traveled to about 35 countries, lived in a number of them for a few months at a time, and I continue to travel in the next couple years. I plan to live in places like Cape Town and Portugal and Spain, maybe in Thailand. We'll see where the winds take me. But in the next 20 minutes, we're going to be exploring this tool called astrolocality. And this is a technology that any one of us can apply in our lives, especially as we're traveling around the world. We want to find the power places in our life for our career, for finding clients, for finding a great sense of home, a nourishing place to live, for finding love and successful relationship, or being really creatively fulfilled. This tool can also be used to bring in more finances to your life. So in the next 20 minutes, we're going to explore a few chart examples. I'm going to show you some maps, get you into this tool a little bit, and we're going to learn about Tony Robbins, actually, everyone's kind of favorite entrepreneur, great hero of that world. We're going to look at some of his maps. We're also going to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, you might not consider him an entrepreneur, but he did kind of take over the state of California, in his career, in his life, and so it's something really fascinating to study. And it really exemplifies a lot of what I want to share with you here, and how digital nomads or entrepreneurs can use this tool to enhance their career, their business, find clients, grow their life into a really successful and holistic experience, where it's not just about being successful in one area of life, but in all the areas that we care about. I'm also going to talk to you about a client of mine's chart, and this is going to tap into a lot about where we can be really financially successful. And I'll give an example from my own life too. I have lots of those. But I want to keep this short and sweet, kind of introduce this topic. I'm going to share my screen with you, show you some maps. Now, you might be skeptical to astrology. I know that I was 12, 13, 14 years ago. Before I went to India and I had a number of readings, Indian Vedic astrology, as well as Western, Chinese, and Tibetan. All of those systems really reflected a lot to me about my soul, about my patterns in this life. And I just got really hooked. As soon as I started to study more, I just was blown away that this was a language that was describing my patterns and my life experiences. And it was really locational astrology that sealed the deal. I got sold on astrology because it just was showing me my experiences in all these places I had traveled to. And so I had to learn more. And I decided that was going to be my niche. That was the area that I was going to really focus on, because I knew I wanted to travel the rest of my life. I knew I was of a generation that loved traveling and could really benefit from this tool. So this is part of my service to a generation that I'm a part of, but also previous and future generations, to use this tool to find our power places. One more thing about astrology, it's that kind of thing, like Isaac Newton actually said this. Newton was quite a character. He was both an alchemist and, a well-respected scientist. And he was very into the esoteric. And he said to Edmund Halley once about the subject of astrology, "Sir, I have studied the subject and you have not." And I really like that, because we tend to judge things we don't know much about. And so the more you study astrology, the more you realize that it is the oldest language of science in the world, practiced by the Maya, the Egyptians, Sumer, this first civilization we have records of, the Islamic Empire, Rome, Greece, China, India. So this is not about the history of astrology, but just to say that check this out, especially for this very practical usage of where should I live on the planet to achieve the goals that I want to achieve. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So, great. If you want to chime in at all, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat. And definitely, as you're watching this, please feel free to share it with anyone you think might benefit, whether they're an entrepreneur, they're relocating, maybe they want to relocate their family, they're thinking of maybe leaving, where they grew up or their current location. They want to know where to live. You can find out more about this at divinetimingcoaching.com, which is my website where I do coaching consultations in this subject. Now, the first thing I want to check out actually is Tony Robbins. Now, we all know Tony Robbins is one of the, most famous entrepreneurs. Awaken the Giant Within, many courses. He kind of taught audio courses and has written many books. He's a multi-millionaire and well respected as a coach and as a motivational speaker. He travels all over the world. And I wanted to show you this. I'm going to share my screen with you and talk to you a little bit. Tony grew up in California, built some of his business there, but now has bought this house. He has a few houses, but he bought this house and resides in Florida, in Palm Beach, Florida. And he's also been quoted in an essay that one of his favorite places in the world is Fiji. And so I want to explore this with you through his locational astrology maps. Now, here's the principle. It's very simple. We all know that whenever we've been in a different location, different areas have different resonances for us. We feel certain things in certain places. And this isn't just about the culture. It's not just about the exotic food or the crazy sounding languages and accents where we are. It's actually like how we interface with that place. And so what we're looking at with locational astrology, actually, first of all, is astrology. And astrology is showing us how the soul interfaces with this plane of the earth. That's really what we're looking at. When an astrologer asks you your date, your time, and your birthplace, that is the moment when your soul incarnated. And it's where it incarnated. So this, astrology is a very spiritual science, and it's a very profound moment. And it seems like some kind of choice, unless we want to believe everything is random, which isn't a very helpful philosophy of life. But you can choose that. But if you believe that there's something more meaningful, and there's a reason you were born where you were at the time you were, astrology will help to show you your patterns through the lens of understanding that moment in time and that place you were born. Now, there's something very different that happens if we relocate your birthplace. And what happens is that the different characters inside of you, which we call the planets, the different planets are in different areas of your birth chart. Those areas we call houses. Houses are simply areas of life experience, like career, like health and illness, like relationships, like creativity, like spirituality, like children. So basically, whenever you move around the planet, your chart is rotating. And that means the different planets are shifting their focus in your life. And so different parts of your soul, different intelligences in you, which we call the planets, are becoming more or less dominant. So then the question becomes, where on the earth should I live so that these certain characters in me, these certain forces of my consciousness, which we call the planets, you could think of them as teachers as well. Each planet teaches you a certain lesson. Like, for instance, the moon. The moon gives you the lesson of what I need to feel emotionally safe, secure, and nourished. It's how I react. It's my instincts. But your sun, where it was when you were born, that's more about how you feel vital and alive. Whereas Venus, she's more about how you attract energy, what kind of love nature you have, what kind of relationship dynamics are going to work for you, as well as how you might earn some money. She really represents values. So what happens is every planet has a different character inside of us, different purpose in our life. And when we relocate your chart, we're looking at how those different purposes express themselves differently in these various locations. Okay, so I'm going to show you this on the on the maps here, and we're going to look at Tony Robbins. So let me just take 1 second here. I'm going to switch my screens. Let's pull up my software. All right, we'll get streaming out of there. All right, cool. So we should be up now. There is, yep. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken, so we can look at anywhere around the planet, and we can relocate somebody's chart as if they were born in this location. So let's actually do this. This is Tony Robbins in Florida, but let's just go back so you can see what's going on. This is where he was born, out here in California. North Hollywood, I believe, Los Angeles area. You see these lines curving here. These are literally the directions of the planets. So if you look, here's the moon. The moon was literally in that direction. If you pointed, you can follow this line, this actual direction around the whole circumference of the Earth. And this is called a local space line. That's a technical term in astrology, but these are very powerful, because what this is like this character, this planet in you, it really gets triggered, activated, awakened when you are closer and closer to these lines. So the closer you live to them, the more you'll feel the nature of that character or that planet. It becomes more of a dominant force in your life. And then, of course, that planet has a story in your birth chart, which is known in astrology as aspects. So basically that's like, is the moon related to other planets? Does the moon have other characters influencing its emotional story? So when we go deeper into studying your locational astrology, we'll see, oh, you're on this moon line, Tony. What's going on with the moon in your chart? What sign is it in? What house is it in? What other characters is it related to? So how will you experience your emotions very strongly in that location? Now, the first thing I want to share with you here is Tony has this house that he bought, I think in 2011 or recently in 14, and it's in Palm Beach right here, which is funny. Here's Jupiter, which is our favorite planet out there, and here is the moon line, this gold line, kind of yellow gold line here. Now, I want to point this out to you because even though Tony's, a famous entrepreneur, we still need to live somewhere as an entrepreneur, and he travels a lot. But the reason I wanted to show you this is because moon lines they are known in astrology as some of the most powerful places to call home, to feel like we're nourished in that location, that we have a sense of feeling rooted, grounded, like there's some community around us. Like we can kind of dig into that location. We can rest there. The moon is a very domestic symbol. It's a very maternal and feminine symbol, very much associated with family and those energies. So if somebody was to come to me and say, hey, where could I have my base? And this is really important for digital nomads, because a lot of us don't just want to travel everywhere all the time. We do want to come back somewhere. Or maybe we want to, keep somewhere for like 3 months of the year or 6 months of the year. And we feel like, okay, I can kind of like chill here. I can still work from here. And I feel kind of grounded here, right? And supported by those I'm around and the location itself. That would be a moon line. I would look for that moon line for someone. And here it is for Tony Robbins, just right here above Palm Beach. So this is where he bought this really, he's got acres and acres of land. This is now his base, okay? And so he can feel nourished here, comforted, like he can rest. I'm sure he's, always working and stuff. Now the other interesting thing is that right here, this blue line, this is the planet Uranus on his angle of career. So now, if there's a planet on the angle of career, absolutely that planet, that force of consciousness in us is going to dominate our career life. And so very important for anyone who is an entrepreneur or who's interested in relocating for their career is to look at what kind of planet represents what kind of career you're going to be in. So for instance, for myself, and I'll show you this in a couple slides, I do a lot of teaching, especially around archetypes, astrology, consciousness, these things. So Jupiter is one of the best planets for me in terms of career. Now, if someone is more, for instance, working in technology all the time, and maybe they have an online business, which most digital nomads do, and they want to find people where they live where that kind of career path can really take off, be successful. You might want to look for Uranus on the angle of career, because Uranus is a planet that represents innovation. It's a very inventive planet. It's also a planet that's very concerned with the future, what's unfolding. That's why we astrologers have always associated Uranus with technology and, everything related to the internet, and whatever's kind of emergent technologically. Now, Uranus is also a planet that's all about a revolution. It's a very revolutionary planet, even rebellious at times. And this planet on the angle of career can mean that we want to bring something new through or something revolutionary. It could also mean that we want to work more independently. Uranus is a planet that appreciates that individual expression. So these could be a great place for like a solopreneur, right? I would imagine that when Tony's there, he's doing a lot of his work and he's able to channel this very high level Uranian energy. Uranus has this kind of bolt of electricity going off with it. It's very like cosmic. You get downloaded with these Uranus energies. It's like your channel is wide open mentally. And so this can be a great place for your career if you want a lot of innovative ideas coming through, you want to have a lot of aha moments, and you want to really shift the paradigm. Now, if you want something stable, Uranus on the angle of career is not the best place. If you want to do the same thing every day for 5 to 10 years, we don't want to live on Uranus on the angle of career, because Uranus is always bringing the new. It's about changing things, shifting things. And it can be a little crazy at times because it moves very fast. But for a lot of us digital nomads, we want to be in that. We want to be in like whatever's emergent, and we might only be in a location for a short time. So this could be a very exciting line to live on. And when we look up your chart, we can find where that energy is for you, right? So this is just Tony Robbins. I want to kind of get that idea through with his chart. Now let's look quickly at Fiji for him, because he said this is one of my favorite. It's like, this is my paradise. This is the place I really love to be. And I know he lives out there for, I think it was a month or two throughout the year, every year with his current partner. And one of the interesting things here is that there is, you can kind of see it here, this dotted line right to the west of Fiji. And down here you'll see, down here, sorry about that. Let's come back here. And let's move the map over. There's Australia. Let's go back to Fiji. So again, we can look up anywhere on the planet. And this energy down here you see the symbol for Neptune, the trident. And this is Neptune on the angle of the home. Now, we were just talking about Uranus on the angle of career, but there's also an angle related to your home environment. Now, if you have a planet there, that planet is really going to be the dominant force in how you experience sort of your day-to-day life in the home environment. And so one of the things that Tony will experience here is this very strong presence of Neptune. Now, Neptune was known as Poseidon in the Greek mythology and Neptune in the Roman. He was the god of the oceans. And obviously he's on Fiji here. So he's like on, this beautiful island. And Neptune, astrologically, represents this feeling of dissolving our boundaries between ourselves and our surroundings. And it's really about allowing a more relaxed, open, spiritual, kind of meditative consciousness. This is not the place you would go necessarily to work your ass off and really try to make $1 million. Now, I'm sure Tony works from there, but this is probably the place where he really likes to chill. And Neptune on the angle of the home is this, actually, it could be called our paradise location. Neptune is the paradise planet. It's the planet that kind of brings this sort of magical realism into our life. There's something mystical, dreamy, poetic, almost cinematic about it. So if you want to have that place that really feels like your fantasy island, then we might go to where Neptune is on the angle of the home. And, this is also important that, as a locational astrologer, I go very deep with this work. And one of the things we always have to do is look at how this person is constellated, in their general archetypes, in their general astrology. How would they work with this planet as a whole? For Tony Robbins, he is a Pisces. He was born during the sign of Pisces. So Pisces is ruled by the sign of Neptune in modern astrology. So when Tony goes to a Neptune line, he can really fully express his vital Pisces energy, which, Tony's a meditator. Tony's a spiritual person. I mean, if you go to his workshops, if you've listened to him, he's very connected with God, with Source. This is probably a place where he feels that very, very strongly. And it might come through being on the ocean. It might come through meditation. It might come through all kinds of things. But this Neptune line allows him to tap into his Pisces nature. So that's very important, to have a location reflect something core in our birth chart that we're seeking to integrate or experience in this life. Now, he also has Mars on the angle of partnership here, and Venus also on the angle of partnership. Now, this could be a great place for him and his partner to feel that honeymoon, lovey, romantic Venus energy. But Mars could bring a little bit of challenge or a little bit of strife or tension in relationship. The best way of working with this for Tony is to be very adventurous with his partner. So Mars brings adventure, the need for passion, the need for taking a risk. And with Venus, the way to put those together is to do that with your partner, or to, for instance, have a more strong sexual relationship with your partner. Maybe he's studying sacred sexuality out there with her more, or doing more practices of building intimacy with her, or just going on fun adventures. And this is a Ceres on the angle of partnership. Ceres is she's a dwarf planet. She actually represents the quality of nurturing, belonging, abundance, and fertility. And he's feeling that in his relationships here. My sense is that he's having a lot of fun out there. There's a lot of adventurous spirit going on. He's well liked. He's probably got a lot of friends he hangs out with there. So just an overall really powerful location for him. Now let's jump ahead. We're going to look at my client, and we're going to talk about this energy here in Europe. Now, this client was born in Sacramento, California. Nowhere in Europe. He was born in California. But I want to point this out to you because in Germany, he moved. And I'm going to read this little quote here from my client's partner. And basically, so in 2005, my client began an internet marketing business in Munich, which you see right here, Munich. And it was sold a few years ago, so 3 years ago now, 2017. It quickly became the largest global company of its kind, surpassing our expectations for success, opening several offices around the world, employing more than 700. Well, this is huge, right? Someone wasn't even born in Europe, let alone Germany, comes to Munich, and the business takes off. 700 employees, very, very successful. And this client was named the European Entrepreneur of the Year. while they were living out there for a few years. He was stressed out, but he was in a position of great power, and he was just very, very well liked, even kind of idealized by those he worked with. He was kind of a superstar, kind of had a real charisma. People just really loved him, and they did kind of positively project onto him as a leader, as someone they wanted to be around. And it was just a magical place for both of them, but especially my client here. What do I want to point out here is this line, kind of purple-brown, this is Pluto on the angle of career. Now, Pluto in astrology can be very extreme. It can bring a lot of intensity into our life. Pluto was known as the god of the underworld, Hades. And so when you go to a Pluto location, there can be underworld types of experiences. What I mean by that is some criminal energy or some shady energy or some power struggles. But as a position for Pluto, if you're going to go to a Pluto line and you're starting a business, or you'd like a business to grow and you'd like to learn how to merge your resources with others to really bring in wealth, this could be the line, because Pluto on the angle of career is bringing one into an empowered state of being. You become the voice of influence. Pluto is the force of, having deep impact in the world. And so here he can have incredible impact in this location in the world, all through Central Europe and definitely through all of Germany. And very strong in Munich. It doesn't have to be right on top. It's probably better that it wasn't. Gave him a little bit of breathing room. Sometimes we don't want to be right on top of these lines. It becomes too strong for us, especially with the planet Pluto. I would rarely ever recommend someone live directly on a Pluto line because it's too intense. The energy can be too strong to deal with. But he's got some breathing room here. Became very, very successful, millionaire company. And he was idealized here. Neptune, this white line here, is rising. Neptune is on the angle of the self, we call the rising sign. The self, the ascendant, the rising sign, this is the personality. So when you put a planet here, it's an energy that we give off to the world that people get from us. It's like we emanate this. And we talked about Neptune with Tony Robbins, but in this case, Neptune is more part of this person's mask here, my client's outer self. And it's so funny because Neptune, it's kind of like, it has a bit of that kind of magic quality to it. There's something sparkly with Neptune. There's something that draws us in. Kind of like it's like a superstar, like we don't really know much about that person, but they have this kind of, this presence that kind of pulls us in, that magnetizes us. It's kind of like being at the ocean, and there's a fog and we get really sucked into like what we see. We can't see it quite clearly. And Neptune rising could be where we are idealized by those around us, where we might be kind of like the chosen one or the savior or the redeemer, someone who has a special gift. And so this is what my client's wife said, that he was kind of, he kind of had this magic to him, and he was kind of known as this kind of superstar in that entrepreneurial world. And so this is a very powerful combination here. And again, even the word Pluto means wealth. So Pluto, wealth on the angle of career can be very, very strong. Now, I want to show you this. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger and his maps. Now, Arnold was born in Austria, so this is a really great example, halfway around the world. He comes at like 17, 18, over to California, moves to, Los Angeles area, and quickly rises to the top in bodybuilding, becomes Mr. Olympian like 7 times, unprecedented. He's just over the top successful. And then he becomes a Hollywood star. He does all these films in the 80s, 90s, Terminator, Predator, Commando, all these films. And then, of course, he becomes the governor, as we call him. And, took over the state, became a public official. That's a lot of energy in a location, right? I mean, really strong. Bodybuilding champion, Hollywood star, and then governor. Nothing mild there, right? So one of the things I want to show you here is the planet Jupiter on the angle of career. And actually, it's pretty strong throughout most of California. Strongest in Southern California. That's where it's closest. Okay? And again, you don't have to be right on top of these lines. It's just the closer you are, the more you're going to feel them. And so Jupiter on the angle of career. Jupiter represents opportunity, inspiration, growth. Like all of our potentials can really be amplified and realized on a Jupiter line. And literally Jupiter is the biggest planet. And here we have the biggest planet, this planet that brings joy, optimism, opportunity, kind of a sense of even royalty to it. And it's on his angle of career. So in that case, you could say that almost anything is possible where Jupiter is on the angle of career, especially if you want expansion and to be successful. And like I said in some of my locations, as a teacher, this could be one of the best lines. So Jupiter is the biggest planet. Arnold was known as the biggest man, literally, bodybuilding champion. Very literal expression of Jupiter, the biggest planet, the biggest man. Jupiter is that larger than life, over the top, everything amplifies with Jupiter energy. Okay, and then he becomes a Hollywood star. Then he becomes the governor. Jupiter also rules law and ethics. And Jupiter has to do with law. So here's someone that becomes the governor. Now, also, he worked in Sacramento, which is over here, center of California. And he worked as the governor there. And here is the planet Mercury on the angle of partnership. Now, what's really powerful about this is one of the best lines for building business relationships in our life. Again, really powerful for all location-independent entrepreneurs, digital nomads, professionals. Mercury on the angle of partnership. Mercury was the god of trade. He's the messenger god, the communicator god. And so when he's on the angle of relationship, this gives a lot of ability to talk with people really well, to kind of speak their language, listen to where they're coming from, cut deals, negotiate, barter, trade, all of that stuff. And I mean, when you're in government, you're doing a lot of this kind of work all the time. And so here he is, pretty close to this Mercury line on the angle of partnership, where he held office in Sacramento. Okay. So this could also be about, it's who you know. That's definitely Mercury on the angle of partnership. Down here, he has Venus on the angle of partnership. This would bring a sense of, popularity with people. It's a great line for relationships and, enjoying creative activities, outdoor activities, cultural activities. So that goes through all of Southern California. So this is Arnold Schwarzenegger in California, one of my favorite charts to discuss. I'm going to get out of here for a minute and just come back to me. And I just want to, say thank you for taking the time today. It's been kind of a long talk here on Facebook Live, but I did want to share this with you. We had 3 different charts that we looked at, and I really hope this inspires you to consider the power of relocation astrology. I'll do probably some other talks more about my own chart, some other clients, and so on and so forth in future Facebook Lives. But this is a really powerful tool when we're relocating. If we're choosing a nomadic life, we want to know the best places to live, where we can find clients, where we can find financial success, where we can find our home, our root, our base, and even find love. I have another Facebook Live all about love lines. And so this is a really cool tool. I really want to inspire you to check it out. You can find me at divinetimingcoaching.com. I do these consultations for clients. It's a main part of my practice and has been for 12 years. And I also do life and business coaching with astrology, another system called human design, and numerology. So we bring all those tools together so that your business can be successful and you can achieve the kind of relationship success you want and a holistic life that really feels nourishing on all levels. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed this, please share it. Share it with your network. Share it with other digital nomads, other entrepreneurs, and let's stay in touch. Let's pull up your astrolocality and find your power places around the earth. Verdeluz signing off.